come to the last presentation in this room for today by John Hislop, G7OHO, about the Raspberry Pi Pico and outreach. John's talk will focus on the Raspberry Pi Pico and its suitability for outreach activities in schools and youth clubs. He'll compare it with the BBC Microbit in terms of learning about electronics, coding and amateur radio. John is a retired physics teacher and he's heavily involved in outreach activities, including being a member of the RSGB outreach team. He runs an electronics coding and amateur radio club for youngsters and has written easy to understand manuals for foundation, intermediate, full and direct to full. John, over to you.
Okay, thank you. When your name is bigger than the title, you know you've made it. If you go into Waterstones, unknown author, the title's big and the author's underneath. James Patterson, his name is big, yeah. Okay, I'm a STEM ambassador, which means when you talk to me, you have to say, Your Excellency. Right. STEM, as you know, is science, technology, engineering, and art, and maths, so STEAM, yeah. And as an ambassador, that means you have to get a little bit of training, not much, about going to schools, how to deal with children, and you get your DBS. So schools would accept you without any hassle. Okay, this talk is the battle of the bands. No, battle of the boards. On the left-hand side, we've got the BBC Microbit, right, which is brilliant. I've used it for outreach many occasions. In fact, last week at the ISS contact with 100 guides, they love playing with the BBC Microbit, where you can send Morse code using the controls on the front. I've had the Pico for a while in the cupboard, not doing anything. But then this book came out and it changed everything. Raspberry Pi Pico for amateur radio amateurs. Wrong one. This is the one. Make Radio. All right. Subtitled Hands-on Adventures in the Hidden Universe of Radio Waves. Yes. Okay. So let's get this right. That one. Yep. So the Pico is a tiny microcontroller. Is it any good to learn about electronics? Learn how to code for radio amateurs. Okay, let's compare it to the BBC Microbit. Which is best? Right, well, first of all, outreach. Somebody asked, well, what is outreach? It's about spreading the word, whether it's to youngsters or older people, U3A. Yeah, you're telling them about amateur radio. Amateur radio is brilliant, isn't it? Yeah, okay. Because the public don't know anything about amateur radio, do they? Unless they're walking past you as you're operating and say, what are you doing? What's that stuck in the air? And so on. Yeah, you've got to spread the word. Right, now I've done quite a lot of outreach. I've written 4 manuals for the exams. The first one is for the foundation. I wrote that in a simple language style for the youngsters. So I thought, well, why not do it for the intermediate? So I've written an intermediate manual which explains things nice and clearly. Yes. Full license manual in simple terms that a youngster can understand. And I've even written a director full. You can get your full license in 3 weeks if you study that book. They're all available from our club website, Hildeston Radio Society. Download them for free. Yeah, oh, yeah, thank you. Well done, yep. Are they any good? Yes, they're getting recommended for full license courses. Yeah, people are enjoying them. Right. We did a virtual online talk a few years ago with my group of STEAMettes. They're a group of young girls, and they explained about Morse texting. So that's something you can find on YouTube. Right. These two youngsters, 8 and 9 years old, they made an AM receiver, which involved a lot of soldering, and they didn't burn themselves at all. So, yeah. So, which is better? Have you made up your mind already? Yeah. The Pico, yeah? Okay, well, let's have a look in 3 categories. First of all, the cost. Well, less than $5 for the Pico. It's a no-brainer. Yeah, it's really cheap. Yeah, the Pico 2 is the latest one that's come out, and the Microbit version 2, which has built-in microphone and speaker. 1-0. Right. But the BBC Microbit has got 25 red LEDs. That's its processor. The Pico only has the one on it, and that's its processor. Okay, so, but I don't want a red LED to blink. I want a green LED to blink. I want to do traffic lights. What do? Well, with the BBC Microbit, this is Annabelle. She made a Christmas tree with lights flashing, coding in simple Scratch language. Nothing complicated, yeah. And that's her wiring. You have to use the pins on the board and wire it all up. Yeah, that's Annabelle, only 9 years old. But can the Pico do the same? Right, this is the BBC Microbit robot. You just plug the BBC Microbit in, and you can control it with another BBC Microbit. And here you can see it's following the line. Hannah and Holly, you saw them earlier. They're demonstrating it for some guides for Thinking Day on the Air. Okay. The Pico does have output pins. So this is lighting a red LED externally, and so it can be done. I see my group next weekend, and we're going to see how many LEDs we can manage. How many output pins has it got? And then Annabelle might think, oh, I prefer this to the BBC Microbit. We'll see. Right, the advantage of the BBC Microbit, it's got lots of sensors. Right, it's got accelerometer, temperature measurement, magnetometer. If you want that kind of thing for the Pico, you need a special board. Cytron make an excellent board, right? And you've got the connectors on the side, special growth connectors. So at the top you've got a display, accelerometer, pressure and temperature. The BBC Microbit has got a humidity sensor all built in. It can do scrolling text. Ooh, which is better? I think the Microbit wins. Yeah, straight off the shelf, poof, off you go. Whereas this, you've got to buy the board and all the other sensors. For coding, if you want to learn how to code, right, the BBC Microbit is very easy. It's called block coding, right? It's like a Scratch program. You go to the website, Microbit website, and as you can see, it's got Let's Code, different projects, it's got tutorials. Yeah, it's excellent. So that's what you're greeted with. You've got all the functions there for movement, music, and so on. So when you open it up, you get all the coding statements, bring them across, job done. You can learn Python on the microbit. When you've done your block coding, you can click on Python and it will translate it into Python. And it can do Arduino, yeah, which I prefer. And yeah, you can install Arduino onto the microbit and do your programming in C, C++. Yeah, quite simple. This is a good website, Adafruit, Lady Ada will explain it all for you. And Simon Monk up there, he will run through traffic lights and so on for you, explain how to do it, not only in Python, but in Arduino. So good support for the BBC microbit. What about the Pico? Well, that's what you greeted with, Raspberry Pi website. Okay, yeah, got software, so on, but it's not so good, I must admit. They have got a guide which you can download and learn how to, as you can see, all the different experiments, LED, push buttons, buzzer, all with MicroPython. So there is support there. Okay. But what about block coding? I need to get more into this and get happy with it. I'm not quite happy with it at the moment. You've got Pico blocks. Yeah, so there is something out there for the Pico to do block coding. Pico bricks have an excellent board. You put the Pico on, reasonable price. Yeah, so you can do all the coding exercises, all different levels. It's got a simulator, just like the BBC microbit has. Yeah, okay, so, but I need to get into this to be confident with it. I'm not sure, yeah. There's another one, Pico Bricks, but it only works in Google Chrome. Well, if you're like me, you hate Google, right? So, but they reckon it can work on any operating system. You can see the blocks there, right? So, what does this one do? I think it's a blink, isn't it? It will set user LED to on, then off, flashing every 200 milliseconds. Okay, so it can be done, but I need to look into it a bit more, right? So I've only just started looking at the Pico. Okay. There is a Discord group to help you, all right, based in the Netherlands. So I've joined the group and I will chat with them about it. Okay, so there is support out there. Arduino. You can run Arduino on the Pico, right, thanks to Earl Phil Hauer, right? That explains how you can get Arduino on the Pico. Okay. So I think on the coding aspect, about the same. Okay, so at the moment it's even. But what about amateur radio? Right. Well, it's got a built-in radio and receiver. Yes, you can see the antenna there. Yep. So one of the things I've done with a school, with their Scratch, okay, it's a simple primary school program, and you can make Scratch do tricks. You press a button on your microbit, it sends a pulse to your computer, and you can make Scratch jump. Can you make your cat do tricks? No, but you can with Scratch. Yeah? And that's one of the activities in the coding week on the RSGB website. It's called Radio Control. Okay. Morse texting. So these are my steamits. You press button A for a dit, button B for a dar. And you can send it across the room. in fact 100 meters, because of built-in radio. Okay, Millie has since passed her foundation exam, M7 MIY. Okay, there was an article about this a few years ago in Radcom. Right, Chris Aitken, who gave a talk this morning about outreach up in Wick School. This is his program for British Science Week. It's to do with change in gravity, and he's trialed this. It does work. So you have 1 microbit. The kids jump up and down or whatever, see how quickly they can move the microbit. It measures the G-force on the accelerometer, transmits the data to another microbit, and they can look at the graph. Okay, so yeah, you can send radio data from 1 microbit to another. Okay. Now the Pico. So that was the first book, Raspberry Pi Pico for radio amateurs. It's in Python, and one of the things he explains is how to type away in text and it will send out Morse code. So yeah, pretty good. All right, other things, electronics, flashing LEDs, useful things for radio amateurs in the station, right? On-off power switch and so on. Okay, so it can be useful for radio amateurs. Now this book by Frederick Jansen is excellent. All right. Okay. Well, one of the things that came out of it was Millie winning the award for a frequency counter. The BBC, not BBC, the RSGB challenge was to make a frequency counter from everyday materials. So the Pico is an everyday material. We've all got one hiding away in the cupboard. So yeah, that passed, all right. Yeah. And John presented Millie with her award, £150. Ooh, yeah. So all thanks to the Pico. Yeah, so she programmed it and built the circuit. Right, so there's the frequency from the signal generator and the reading on the Pico. Not quite the same. Which one would you trust? Yeah, yes. You can make an FM receiver using the Pico. Bob is in our club, the Hilderstone, and he helped to build that. He's very intellectual. He's listening to BBC 4. Yeah. But yeah, you need an FM module, a bit of coding, and Frederick explains how to do that and make your own FM receiver with a Pico. Pico, only £5. Yeah, yeah, not bad. You can make an AM transmitter. Ooh. Or can you? Right. Yeah. It's in the broadcasting bands. Ooh, right, okay. So you can make one, but you can't use it. Right, so in the book, incidentally, Frederick explains how the 555 or 755, first of all, as an audio oscillator, yeah, quite simple. Charles Platt, as you know, is the electronics guru. And the 755 itself can be used to transmit the signal. But of course, you don't actually do that because it's in the broadcasting band. Yeah. But that's using the 555. With the, this is my crystal radio, which is explained in the book. You've all made a crystal radio, haven't you? Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, and that works. I was able to pick... No, I didn't pick up the transmission because I didn't transmit, no. no. But it's using a chocky block, yeah, so nice and simple, and it works. Designed by Henry Walmsley. You can buy these from eBay. Yes, yeah, impressive, eh? Right, well, this is our Pico AM transmitter, transmitting, what's that, 11.6 kilohertz, yeah. So, very few components, you change the frequency, there you go. AM transmitter. What we tried to do was look at the waveforms, and you can see how it's relying on pulse width modulation to send the carrier wave and to modulate it. You've got a frequency coming in, 1 kilohertz. Yeah, so the principles of AM modulation. Okay, so the book is really good then for anyone studying for the full license because it covers all these points. The duty cycle. The way the AM transmitter works is the signal comes in and when it's high, when it's loud, you've got a big duty cycle. When it's soft, a smaller duty cycle. So that duty cycle is then changed back into the sound. Sampling, the Nyquist-Shannon theorem is not mentioned at intermediate level, but it is sampling is mentioned in the book. DSP, digital signal processing, it's all there, and it gives you a good understanding if you make these circuits and experiment with them. Yeah, it really stretches your mind. Because as someone said to me, they did a license way back, they had to do an essay. Nowadays, the full license requires knowledge, and certainly in the Ireland manual, there's a lot of DSP in it. Yes, excellent. Yeah. So, what do you know about DSP? Get a Pico, £5, and investigate how it works. Software-defined radio. It's the future, isn't it? As Rafael said, when was the last all-analog radio produced? Over 25 years ago. But your AM transmitter is effectively a short-range device, an SRD. Are you allowed to actually transmit? You check with Ofcom. License-exempt short-range devices. Does your transmitter fall into that category? Afraid not. But in the States, it does. You can transmit 100 milliwatts without being nervous or whatever. You know, someone going to knock on the door. But the range of this transmitter that you make is only a meter, 3 feet. Are you going to worry about it? Yes, you are, because you yes. You don't want to break the rules. You don't want to lose your license, do you? Okay. So if you look it up, you see all these a huge range of short-range devices, non-specific. You've got the frequency. No, it's not in the range we're using. So really, you can't actually transmit. But who's to know? But on the whole, I think you've got to admit that the Pico is best for amateur radio. So it wins. Yeah. So the winner is Pico. So, yeah. It's as good as the BBC microbit in many ways, if not better. So are you going to go out and buy one? Yeah. Or should the RSGB put on a Pico workshop? Mark, who put on the Arduino workshop, was oversubscribed. Doing it again tomorrow. That's learning C, C++ on the Arduino. The Pico is far more powerful than the Arduino at radio frequencies, certainly. So, Would there be any interest in learning Python on the Pico? Okay, so if you want to ask me any more questions by email, that's where you can contact me. Okay, thank you.